Hey, Dan Denley here from GuitarZoom.com, and I want to talk to you a little bit about effects. Now, I'm not a big effects person. I'm not a big guitar pedal and an accessory type person. I'm kind of a purist almost in that a lot of times I don't use any effects, but there are a couple that I'll use on occasion. And hey, I like effects pedals as much as the next guy. But to me, because I'm a teacher primarily, I don't use effects very much because obviously I'm trying to show the student, here, this is an E string. And I don't want it to be like, have like a delay effect on it, like, or some like huge reverb or some kind of wah or something, right? So those are more like performance things, but I will use a couple of them, and I just want to show you the two that I use the most. Okay, what I'm basically doing is I'm using three what I would call effects. So I'm using a reverb, which actually is built into this amp. Now, your amp may not have reverb built into it. It might, it may not. If not, you can get a reverb pedal. Just plug that in, you can use that. Now, what I'm doing here is I've got my reverb for this particular sound that I'm going for. I've got it, to about halfway. And you can see here, I'm using this channel A on this particular amp, which is a Marshall JCM 900 100-watt dual gain reverb vacuum tube amp. And I'm using the reverb here is about 5. Now check it out. Okay, if I turn that reverb up even more, it gets really boomy. Okay, that's why I don't really use that much reverb. It just sounds too boomy for me. So I can turn it about halfway down and you get this sound. Of course, if I turn it all the way down, you get. Okay, so that's the reverb effect that I use. And I use that about maybe, about 5. Now, depending on the pedal that you have, or the preamp that you purchased, or the pedal box that you have, the pedal settings, you might have like 10 different reverbs, okay? Fool around with them and figure out which one you like best. That's really the rule of thumb with all this stuff, is just to really mess with it. But I do want to show you another kind of secret weapon that I use. And I don't know if it's much of a secret anymore, but when this pedal first came out, I'll tell you the truth, and I don't want to badmouth these people, but they used to make one. It was called I think it was called a Stinger pedal. And for me, it just didn't work. I don't know if it was the particular pedal that I bought. It didn't work, but it seemed to kind of jack up my amp. And I had the amp fixed several times, and I finally figured out, or at least I think, that it may have been that pedal. Again, I might be totally wrong, but just to tell you, I wound up buying the pedal again. And I purchased one several years later that was essentially the same thing. They renamed it the Sonic Stomp Sonic Maximizer. And I just love it. I absolutely love it. So if you hear basically right now, let's see here. Now, I'm going to turn this pedal on and listen to the difference. Here it is, not on. Here it is on. So what it really does is it just boosts the highs and the lows, and it's just like an effects booster. I mean, it's like an equalization booster. So you can really tell on the dirty channel. Let's see, here it is off. And here it is turned on. I'll just switch it on and off without pausing so you can really hear. Here, check it out. Off. So you can tell that thing really kicks when you get it cranked up too. And you can really tell a lot better about what I'm talking about when the amplifier's turned up a lot. So I'm not sure exactly how much you can tell the difference, but I'm telling you, this thing rocks. Now, the other thing I'll also use sometimes, very rarely actually anymore, but I will sometimes use this other pedal by Boss called Turbo Overdrive. And it's pretty cool. And what it does is just basically is an overdrive pedal, okay? It's gonna give you just some more crunch. So if I'm on a dirty channel, right, and I'm going like, right, and I want a little bit more crunch, I can kick this thing in. Now, the problem is it's gonna have this sound when you're not playing, like, and you could do a little bit of feedback. So you gotta be careful when there's silence. You gotta really turn on and off your volume knob. But if I got this pedal turned on, it gives me even more crunch. As opposed to just. And the other thing for soloing it does is I'll kick up a little bit of reverb, and then I can flip it on this front pickup here, keep the turbo overdrive on, turn the sonic maximizer on, and I can really have a lot of sustain. But you can tell you can get a lot of sustain with that overdrive pedal. So that's kind of the two effects that I use, is that sonic maximizer and the turbo overdrive, and then some reverb, and that's pretty much it. And I've used delay, and I've used wah, and I've used phasers, and I've used just pretty much every effect you can imagine. But because I'm a teacher generally, I don't use a ton of effects. But those are the ones that I will use, especially when I'm performing. And that's kind of my setup. But the best advice I can give you about pedals and stuff is, if you're going to buy one online, make sure you contact the company and say, hey, if I get this and check it out, can I return it to you and get my money back if you don't like it? And the second thing is, if you have a local music store, go in there, sit down, especially if you can grab some headphones. That always helps. You grab some headphones so you can like sit there and fool around with stuff and not be worried about people listening to you and that kind of thing. Maybe you don't really care about that, but you know, some people get kind of freaked out about playing in front of other people. But you know, go in there, sit down, get the effects boards, you know, that you want, sit down, plug them in, and then just get the guy over there or gal over there and say, how does this thing work? Get him to show you a quick little tutorial of how it works, and then you sit there and play with it until you know, see if it's going to do what you want it to do. But that is my best advice on effects. But generally speaking, you're going to need some kind of a booster, which I'm using with this maximizer, the sonic maximizer, some kind of overdrive if you can be playing any kind of distorted like leads, and some kind of reverb, regardless of whether you're playing blues or jazz or pop or whatever. So that's my best advice. If you'd like some more tips and tricks, check out guitarzoom.com. I'm Dan Denley.